What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome and not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, as you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking. And if that's a thing, that's a you thing, not a me thing. Not you dying in the background. Honestly, sometimes I don't feel like doing my makeup, right? And I would just like to sit down and film while my makeup already done. And that's what I'm doing today. That's where I'm at with it. So today, y'all, I'm a little bit unsettled in my spirit. Okay, let me tell you what happened with this particular case. I started researching it, and then it was so much information, so many court documents to go through, so much trial footage to watch, right? So I was like, kind of having trouble just streamlining and making a timeline. So I said, well, let me see if there's a documentary that can kind of help me put certain things in order as far as like the timeline, right? And I see that Oxygen is airing a show like called Sin City Murders that's like set to air in a day or two after, you know, when I was gonna film, right? So I watch it, and when I tell you Oxygen ought to be ashamed of themselves, the way that they framed this story, the things that they left out, absurd. I want you, this is the thing, I want you to go watch it. It's called Sin City Murders. The episode is like episode 1, I think. It's a very new show. I think it's 2 episodes in. The episode is called like Death of a Showgirl, something like that. These networks, Oxygen, Investigation, Discovery, I learned very early on in doing this that they tweak so many of the details. And I can understand changing some details to maybe protect some people. What they did here is just criminal, child. Now, there are quite a few people involved in today's case, and I'm gonna start by introducing Deborah. So Deborah is born in Puerto Rico, and at the age of 7, her family relocates to Baltimore, Maryland, where she grows up. And for the most part, her upbringing is pretty average. She's very popular, outgoing, very smart, and a conventionally beautiful girl. After high school, she goes on to obtain 3 degrees, one in international business, marketing, and law, but her passion has always been dance. And this passion is one that she cannot shake. Now, she had been a cheerleader in high school, so she had a little bit of experience, you know, shaking a pom-pom or two. With that, she tries out for the Washington Redskins cheerleading team, and she makes it. Now, career-wise, she secures a job as a senior financial analyst and is overall doing well for herself. But despite this, she still cannot shake her passion for dancing. Like, that is what she really wants to do professionally. So in 2008, the now 30-year-old Deborah decides that she is going to go after a different career path and pursue her dream of becoming a professional burlesque dancer. She and her boyfriend moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, and without any prior formal dance training, which I'm not sure if you need to be a burlesque dancer. And that's no shade. Deborah just has her hopes, her dreams, and a little bit of experience being a cheerleader. But she also has a plan, and she works very hard on her craft. She does a lot of networking, and it is not long before her dreams become a reality. Now, the relationship with the boyfriend, that fails, but her career takes off. And within a year, she is given some pretty impressive opportunities on the dance scene and appears in quite a few productions. Okay, so quick fact, mama wear glasses. She can't see. My eyesight ain't worth 2 dead fly smash baby with the wings torn off without assistance. I wear glasses, mostly contacts, but of course, because I'm always doing my makeup in my videos, you only see the contacts. Because my left one just clocked out on me, I'm just gonna put my glasses on and keep rolling with the video. And while I'm at it, let me take my little Lexapro too, child. I ain't got time. Now, Deborah secures a position in the fantasy stage show at the Luxor Hotel and Casino, which is a pretty good opportunity. But the biggest opportunity of her career thus far is an upcoming performance alongside R&B sensation Cisco to his hit song, Thong Song. Now, at the time, the song is 10 years old, but a hit nonetheless, and he is a star nonetheless. So she is excited for this. The show has a 2-week run where she is not simply just a background dancer. Granted, that's something to be proud of too, but the performance consists of a lot of her own ideas and creativity. So it is a bigger deal than her just full outline in the background. The final rehearsal for this is set for December 12th of 2010, and the show is set to debut the following night. Deborah makes it to all her rehearsals, but when it's showtime, Deborah is a no-show. Everybody that knows Deborah, her friends, her family, the fellow dancers, they all know that this is not something that she would have missed. Now, her roommate calls for police, but of course, you know, there is a waiting period before they allow you to make or file a missing persons report. So on Tuesday, December 14th, after it had been 48 hours, her roommate does that. She also tells the police that Deborah had plans of visiting her ex-boyfriend the night that she had gone missing. The following day, they go out and speak with the ex-boyfriend, and he tells them, yeah, she was there on December 12th, but she had not stayed and she had not even gotten out of her car. We had a brief conversation, after which, according to him, she left because she needed to get prepared for her upcoming show. And he has not seen nor heard from her since. Now, the surveillance footage that they pulled from her condo's building shows her leaving her apartment, and they can see that she did get into her car around 6 p.m. headed somewhere. And the following day, the police receive a phone call from a woman who is reporting that a strange car has been abandoned in her backyard and that the trunk is slightly open. The license plate has been removed from the car, but a quick run of the VIN verifies that this car belongs to Deborah. She is not inside of the car, but they wasted no time searching it for clues. All that is inside the car's trunk is the car's license plate, and on the back seat of the car are the boots that Deborah is seen wearing in the surveillance footage from her apartment. Aside from that, they don't find much. Now, of course, they still have their antennas up with this ex-boyfriend Jason, the one that they'd already spoken to. But after speaking to her sister, they find out that there is another ex that they probably should be a little suspicious of, one that she had broken up with the previous year and has somewhat of a motive. Now, apparently her relationship with this ex, Jamil, whom she had moved with to Vegas, was a very tumultuous one that had ended on a very toxic note. Baby, bad terms is not the word. A year ago, Deborah had accused Jamil of assaulting her, and instead of her filing charges against him, she opts to sue him. Now, according to the court documents, Deborah had accused Jamil of a vicious assault where she had sustained all kinds of scratches, bruises, scarring, so much so that she had to pass up on modeling jobs and subsequently lost out on money. Now, Jamil denied the claims, but when he saw that she was very much serious, he got him a lawyer. The lawyer called her allegations frivolous and offered to settle out of court for $1. And although there were no medical reports, no police reports to support her claims, she'd won the civil suit and had been awarded a $250,000 judgment. Jamil was never prosecuted by law enforcement, but that didn't matter. The lawsuit was damaging enough to his career. He too was a professional dancer. He had done music videos, reality TV shows. He had been a part of Wayne Brady's show at the Venetian. So in that time, he too had seen him some success. But after this, he left Vegas and had not paid Deborah a dime of that money. So at this point, they're wondering if this ex is the culprit. They locate Jamil, and it turns out that he was verifiably in Baltimore when she went missing, so he is cleared as a suspect. And again, they're taking a closer look at our most recent ex, Jason. They asked to speak with Jason again, now 10 days into Deborah's disappearance, and this time he agrees to speak with them, but not without a lawyer. Now, according to him, their relationship had gotten off to a good start, much like the previous, had become toxic over time. And by May of 2010, earlier this year, Jason was feeling smothered by Debbie and he was ready to cut the cord. He had realized around that time that the two of them were not really a good match. He thought she was too clingy. She always wanted to be around him, and when they physically couldn't be around each other, she wanted to be on the phone with him, and for him this was just a bit too much. He is also transparent, telling them that when things were bad in the relationship, they were really bad. Detectives also speak with Jason's roommate Louis and his girlfriend, and they both say they don't know anything about Deborah's disappearance. They search Jason and Louis's home, but they don't find anything there that suggests something sinister had taken place. There's no blood, no patches of fresh carpet, mounds of dirt back behind the house, none of the things that suggest that a murder has taken place and been covered. However, the picture that they have of Jason and Deborah's relationship is far from complete. They speak with Jason's new girlfriend, who sheds a bit more light on the dynamic between Jason and Deborah. Now, unlike in her previous relationship, the domestic disputes in this one were documented. On two separate occasions, they have arguments where Jason asks Debbie to leave his home and she refuses. She refuses to the point where he has to call 911 to have police come in and force her to leave. And in one instance, she had barricaded herself in his bathroom until they had gotten there. Each time it is noted in the police report that she had physically attacked him to some capacity, whether it was just pushing, scratching him in the face, police. There's also another instance where police are called during an altercation and Jason is named the aggressor and arrested. So for him, with all this drama, things had gotten to a point where he was just ready to be done with the relationship, but Debbie was not. One evening, she is calling, texting his phone like back to back. He's not answering, and after a couple of hours, she shows up at his house and breaks his bedroom window. In June of 2010, about a month after he had ended things with her, or tried to, Debbie tells Jason that she is just now found out that she is pregnant, and the two agree to terminate the pregnancy. Now, Deborah really wants his support during the process. He does accompany her to the appointment, but aside from that, that's all he is willing to give. And she accuses him of not being supportive. Afterward, he unfriends her on Facebook. He changes his number in order to help finalize his split from her and move on with his life. He then begins dating a new woman, Agnes, and Agnes is also a dancer. From what I read, y'all, it is not uncommon for these dancers to just pile up on top of each other. Jason is really feeling Agnes, but for whatever reason, despite having changed his number, blocking or unfriending Deborah on Facebook, he reaches out to her to tell her happy birthday. He also tells her that he has special ordered a pair of shoes for her as a gift. And when the gift arrives, she invites him over to see the shoes. You know these little games that people play with their exes, child. We've all played them. Jason goes over to the house when the shoes arrive. Debbie is wearing the shoes and nothing else. And with that, the two of them reignites their sexual relationship. And it is said that they did so with the understanding that he is in a new relationship. He still intends to continue his new relationship. He is not interested in circling back. He just don't mind sliding through and having relations with Deborah from time to time. When asked why he had reconnected with her at this point, he says, quote, "She's not bad all the time." We know what that's go for. Now, unfortunately, the times where she is bad result in more 911 phone calls being made, reporting Deborah for stalking, harassment, threats, and assault. And this goes on for months. On October 9th, Jason calls the police to report Deborah being at his house harassing him. Now, she can be heard screaming in the background, calling him all kinds of cowards and obscenities for calling the police. And in one of these instances where he has to call the police on her, the responding officer actually laughs at him for, quote, complaining about a hot girl wanting to be with him. Less than 2 weeks after this incident, the police are called again at 1:30 a.m. on a Friday, because Debbie has shown up to the new girlfriend's house and is yelling and screaming, demanding that he tell his new girlfriend the truth, that they have been sleeping together for the past couple months. And she is out there kicking Jason's car door and just having a time, okay? Now, Jason had gone out there to attempt to make her leave, and as soon as he grabs her by the shoulder, she dramatically falls to the ground in a manner that Jason and Agnes found to be dramatic and disproportionate to the way that he had touched her. But despite her coming off as dramatic, Agnes feels for her when she is down on the ground and she starts to cry, so she goes to help the woman up. Now, unfortunately, this does not stop the altercation. The dispute is ongoing. Debbie calls 911, and when the officer gets there, she tells them that not only had Jason pushed her down, but he had taken her phone from her, had thrown it into the atmosphere, honey, and when she went to pick it up, he had kicked her and pulled her hair. And she did present a chunk of hair that had allegedly come from her scalp. It's photographed, it's collected as evidence. They take pictures of bruises on both of her legs that she said happened at the hands of Jason. She also tells them that she is pregnant again. And this is the first time that Jason is hearing about a baby, but he knows because they've been sleeping together that it's a possibility. Of course, when they speak to Jason and Agnes, they say that he did grab her shoulders, but everything else is either an embellishment or a lie. And prior to right now, he had not heard or known that she was pregnant. So this is the incident where he was named the aggressor and he was arrested. However, the charges had to be dropped because there was not enough evidence to support her version of the story. And this is not the last incident where Agnes is drug into and involved in all the mess. A short time after this, a 911 call is made by Agnes herself on Jason's behalf during an incident where Deborah was following Jason in her car. Now, of course, it's not long before all of this drama and this negativity becomes too much for Agnes to deal with and begins negatively impacting their relationship. She breaks up with him. She tells him that she is not interested in pursuing any of the things as long as he has any dealings on any level with his ex-girlfriend Deborah. And roughly 2 weeks after this, a friend of Jason's reaches out to police expressing their concern about his welfare. They had received a text message from Jason that gave them the impression that Jason would potentially harm himself. Officers respond to the call. They find Jason sitting on a street not far from his house texting. They speak with him, find reason enough to put him on a 72-hour hold at a mental health facility. Exactly 1 month later, he texts an ex-girlfriend of his, not Agnes, a different one. He tells her that he is interested in buying a gun, but he can't just go get one with his recent domestic violence arrest and a recent 72-hour mental health hold. That would not be an easy thing to do. Now, he does not tell her what he has plans to use it for, whether it's for protection or if he has plans to use it in the upcoming days. He just asks her if she knows a workaround, but she is unable to help him with this. And this was 4 days before Deborah disappears. From the moment that Deborah had officially become a missing person, they had been searching for her, interviewing friends, family members, neighbors. They come up with nothing. The only thing that they do find remotely interesting is the fact that Deborah had sent an ominous text to her mom several days before she disappeared. In case there is ever an emergency with me, contact Blue Griffin in Vegas, my ex-boyfriend, not my best friend. The person that she is calling Blue Griffin is Jason. Blue is his like stage name, dancer name, nickname. But the mom found that to be quite odd. So she asked her, what does it mean? And her response is, don't worry, mommy, just keep it for your records. Now, aside from that, they don't uncover anything for nearly a month. Aside from that, they don't really uncover anything. On January 5th of 2011, they get a good lead when an ex-girlfriend of Jason's reaches out to them. And this is a different one. This is not anyone that they have already spoken to. Now, according to her, Jason had contacted her on December 15th asking if he could store some things at her place. That he was preparing to move in a couple months and he just needed a place to stash some stuff. She was fine with it, but then Jason and his roommate, Luis, showed up in a U-Haul truck with a single large plastic tub in the back of it. It is nearly full with dark concrete. It's bulging at the sides, and the fact that the two of them together are struggling to pick this thing up and move it around lets her know that it is extremely heavy. When she asks him what's inside, he tells her, you don't want to know. And she is like, baby, if you're gonna store this at my house, I need to know. So she puts the pressure on him to let her know what's in it. When he tells her it's Deborah, she tells him to get the off of her property. Take the tub, take the U-Haul, take your roommate and skedaddle. Like, you can't store that here. She also tells police that she did not go to the police right away because she was afraid. His roommate Luis is like 6'5", 400 pounds. And if Debbie is already in one tub, it's not far-fetched to believe that she could end up in another. But for the past couple weeks, she has been watching Deborah's disappearance circulate through the media, and she knew that coming forward was the right thing to do. Now, before they go round up Jason and Luis, they are able to confirm that Jason had rented a U-Haul on December 14th, along with 2 dollies. And when they pull the security footage, you can see the 2 men returning the truck 2 days later after business hours. They already know what kind of games Jason gonna play, calling this little lawyer and things. So instead, they go and round up Luis, the roommate, to give him an opportunity to give a statement. Now, Luis is willing to talk to them, but only in exchange for immunity. If they can give him immunity and let him know he won't be charged for any of the things, he will gladly sit down and tell them everything he knows. And he knows a lot. Now, according to Lewis, on the night that Deborah had disappeared, her stopping by the house was not as quick and uneventful as Jason claimed it was. Luis was there when she had arrived and witnesses a disagreement between the two when he told her that, like, this was it. Like, they had to be done because he wanted to run away with Agnes, and he just needed Deborah to know that he was done for real this time. But she was not trying to hear that. This leads to an argument. Now, Louis does admit that things between them had gotten physical, and during their tussling, he stepped in because Jason had at some point put his hands around Deborah's neck. Afterward, things had calmed down a little bit. They were still arguing, still disagreeing, and he leaves to go pick up his girlfriend, hang out with some friends, and he had planned on bringing his girlfriend back to the house. But around 10:30 p.m., he receives a text from Jason telling him, don't bring your girlfriend back here. Like, you need to come back to the house, but come back alone. And when Louis had got home, Jason had met him at the front door and told him that Deborah was dead. Louis doesn't quite believe him. Jason takes him to show him the body. When he sees it, he immediately becomes sick. He goes to throw up. Afterward, he pulls himself together and he just has that thought where maybe I didn't just see what I saw. Like, maybe she's not dead. He goes back into the room and she is laying in the exact same position. It was very obvious that she was no longer living. She's not breathing. She's cold to the touch. At this point, the two men visit a nearby Home Depot where they get a large plastic bin and they also get concrete. Jason removes all of Deborah's clothes. He pushes her knees up to where it's like she's sitting with her knees to chest, and he tapes her up in that position. Louise helps Jason put her inside of the bin, like in a sitting up position. Then the two of them go out to the garage. They mix the concrete and pour it over top of her. They fill the tub up to the rim, covering her completely. Then they leave the bin in the garage overnight to harden. Now, Louise then tells them that the following day they had unsuccessfully attempted to store the bin somewhere, but he doesn't go into detail about where. After that had fallen through, they had tried a second location, but this second location was upstairs and they were unable to carry this big tub full of concrete and a body up flights of stairs. So at that point, they had just parked the U-Haul truck at a Flying J truck stop for the night and left it there. And they figured that somebody would come looking for her really soon. So Louise takes her car and just dumps it in a random residential backyard. And in the meantime, Jason is able to convince another friend to let him store some things at one of their vacant bungalows near downtown. And this friend was like overseas, living their best life. So they had no clue what was really being taken to one of their properties. Jason gets the keys. The following morning, Louise attempts to take the tub by himself out of the truck and into the bungalow because there are no stairs, but he struggles and the tub cracks at the bottom and fluid begins to leak out. At this point, he calls Jason for assistance. Jason comes. Together they move the tub inside into the living room and just leave it there for the time being. It's still leaking. It is very clear that they can't leave it as is, that they would need to repackage Deborah, but would need more tools because this tub is ruined and they can't break up concrete with their hands. For whatever reason, they're in no rush to do this. They return the U-Haul truck. A couple of days later, they go together to another Home Depot. They get 2 new plastic tubs, a sledgehammer, a hand-saw, plastic bags, and cleaning supplies. When they get back to the bungalow where she is being held, they break Deborah out of the concrete using the sledgehammer. Jason saws off both of her legs and puts them in a trash bag. The top of her is also put into another black trash bag. The 2 bags are placed in 2 different tubs and they mix enough concrete to fill both tubs and cover both sets of remains. They then put the tubs, stack them inside of a closet and seal the closet door with spray foam insulation, which I don't get because I know the people that own the property don't currently live there, but this is somebody else's home that you selling doors to. So I found that to be kind of weird. They pack up most of the belongings, the materials that they used, put it in a different closet. They also sealed that one. And I guess by that point they were tired because they don't clean up the broken concrete in the front room. They don't dispose of the broken tub. With all of this being said, Luis agrees to take them to the house and show them everything that he's told them. They obtain a search warrant for the property. And sure enough, just as he had told them, the first thing they see when they enter into the living room is chunks of concrete. One chunk of concrete has clumps of long, dark brown hair, like stuck to it but hanging from it. And there is, of course, also the broken, cracked blue tub that they had originally put her in. You can also see like the messy foam insulation around the door. They break that open and they see the two green tubs stacked up inside. And it takes a while to get to her, but eventually they do and are able to confirm that the remains are in fact Deborah's. Meanwhile, Jason is somewhere dancing his heart away in a performance for Cirque du Soleil down at the Mirage. Right after his performance, detectives pull up on him and ask him if he is willing to come down to the station and just answer a few more questions regarding Deborah. They tell him that he is not under arrest, that they just want to chat. He agrees, but he instantly gets his lawyer on the phone to keep him in the loop. Initially, Jason denies having anything to do with her disappearance. They let him know that they know Deborah is dead. They know where Deborah is and they have recovered her. Still, he denies having anything to do with any of the things. Now, when they ask him about the U-Haul, he does admit to renting one, but he offers them an explanation for that. He needed to pick up a punching bag stand and some additional workout equipment from a friend's home that would not fit in his own car. At this point, it's pretty obvious that he is going to deny, and try to die with the lie. So they ask him very specific questions about the disposal and the remains of Deborah and how they have been stored. He refuses to respond without the presence of his lawyer, and at that point the interview it's over. But unfortunately for little Jason, they have enough evidence to go ahead and arrest him. And so he is officially read his Miranda rights and placed under arrest. 3 days later, the Clark County Coroner's Office releases their official report stating that Deborah had died of asphyxiation due to neck compression and rules her death a homicide. It is also confirmed that she was not pregnant, as she had claimed to be in the altercation a month prior. A grand jury then indicts Jason Griffith on 1 count of murder, and the judge orders that he be held without a bail. Over a dozen friends and colleagues of his write letters to the judge asking him to reconsider giving him a reasonable bail amount. They all highlight Jason's character as being really loving, really light. They describe him as being a very caring father who does not have violent tendencies. But all of their requests, they letters, and they pleading, it all falls on deaf ears because the judge, he refuses to alter that bail. He pleads not guilty, and when his trial begins, he makes it very clear that Louis had nothing to do with what happened to Deborah and that he was just roped in after the fact. And due to Luis's minimal involvement, his statement given to police, him taking him around to the house and pointing out the bin, also him agreeing to testify, is enough to keep him from being charged. Now, Jason does something a lot of people don't do and are advised not to do. He takes the stand during his own trial to testify on his own behalf. He tearfully explains all of the things that had transpired between the two of them leading up to that day and says that it all happened in self-preservation. According to him, he had told Deborah that he was back with Agnes. She was not trying to hear it, which is the same thing, same story that Luis told. Deborah was not taking it well. He says that when she came to the house, she told him that she had shown up there with a gun in her purse and she was prepared to take him out and herself out as well. And when she had reached for her bag, believing that she likely did have a weapon, he had grabbed her from behind and put her in this like chokehold that he demonstrates. He says that she was still reaching for the bag and he was just squeezing because he was afraid to let her get to it. He held on to her until she went limp, only to find that there was no weapon in her bag after all. And at that point, he panicked. He tried listening for her heartbeat, but couldn't really hear because of the pounding of his own chest. He had then put a plastic bag over her head to see if like there would be some fog from like her nostrils or her mouth, but there was none. So that confirmed for him that she was no longer breathing. He says that this was just a month after he had been falsely accused of assaulting her and had been arrested. And although the charges had been dropped, he just did not feel confident in law enforcement. Now, had she had the gun, it would have been easier for him to explain this whole situation. But without it, he doubts that he'd be believed and opts for hiding her instead. Jason says that he had genuinely become afraid of her and her violent tendencies. And so when she showed up wanting to fight, claiming that she had that weapon, he believed her. He explains the many attempts that he had made to get law enforcement involved and how many of the officers had not taken him seriously and had the attitude of like, she's just a girl. The jury hears a total of 14 911 calls made by him during and after their relationship, all reporting her erratic behavior, her stalking, her harassment, her assaulting him, her refusing to leave his house. They hear 2 additional 911 calls made by Agnes about Deborah's behavior, and Agnes also takes the stand to testify about what she had witnessed. And according to her, the day that Deborah had called the police saying that he had pushed her, kicked her, and all of these things, she had in fact witnessed Deborah spitting on him, kicking him, slapping him, and pushing him while he was simply trying to ask her to leave. The trial also sheds light on her previous relationship with Jamil. He testifies as well. During their relationship, she had been arrested for assault, harassment, and resisting arrest. He also had a restraining order put on her in 2009 following multiple 911 calls reporting violent behavior, and all of this had happened back in Maryland before she'd even gotten to Vegas. In closing arguments, prosecutors state that they believe that regardless of what had transpired in the previous months, this was done to Deborah because of Jason's desire to peacefully be with Agnes, that he had intentionally decided that Deborah had to go. Now, Jason's lawyer counters this, saying that he was merely defending himself from a violent, volatile woman and had been pushed to the edge. He points out that his client has a spotless record, no history of violence at all prior to meeting Deborah, whom he described as a deeply troubled person who probably needed mental health treatment. None of Jason's ex-girlfriends testify that he was violent with them or an aggressor in any capacity. However, the same could not be said for Deborah. They even present in trial a recording that Jason had taken of Deborah admitting to slashing 3 of his tires. And in this recording, she admits to doing not only that, but pouring egg whites all over his car, hitting him and barging into his house and looking through his computer for something. Now, in closing, Jason's lawyer asked the jury to consider a lesser charge of manslaughter, which would indicate that the act was done in the spur of the moment, in a moment of passion, and wasn't intentional or malicious. The trial lasts for 9 days. The jury deliberates for 14 hours. And although they do not believe that this was something that he had planned to do, they do find him guilty of murder in the 2nd degree as opposed to the 1st. Now, during the hour-long sentencing hearing, Deborah's family attends and they ask for a life sentence. But Jason and his lawyer ask for a 10 to 25 year prison term. They felt like that was fair. He is ultimately sentenced to 10 years to life in prison. But in 2020, when he was first eligible for parole, his appeal for parole was denied. And so to this day, he remains behind bars. Y'all, like I said, go check out Sin City Murders on Oxygen and look at this episode. I think it's the first episode, and look at the way they tell the story. You would think, and I want to say this, I'm not saying that she deserved what happened to her, but if we're gonna have an honest conversation, it was not as simple as this lady had a dream of being a dancer and she was well on her way, and then one of her exes just derailed her future and cut off her legs. That's how they painted the picture. Whether or not he planned to take her out, I honestly don't know. I'm not sold on the idea that he did not premeditate it, because who knows, maybe he went through all of this and decided, yes, like, she has to go. And I also do think that he should share blame for changing his number, unfriending her on Facebook, and then reigniting the relationship on her birthday. It's just a lot going on. It's a lot to unpack here, and it's unfortunate that 2 people have now lost their lives, but you gotta make better decisions out here, people. That is pretty much it for this video. As always, I am ready to hear your thoughts down below. I will be laid up in my bed, child, reading them and responding. So let me know what you think. Please don't forget to like the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Y'all stay safe, girl. Stay safe and stay alive. It's hard out here. What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your... Wait, the mic all the way over there. Hold on. Take 2. Y'all, My little two-piece is in the background. Speaking of two-piece, I need to order me some lunch, okay? Mama is ready to film. Mama ain't ate. Well, I had a little bit of fruit, but that ain't gonna do. That's gonna run out. My children are really in the background. We all snacking. These little black Baby Bell cheeses, the white cheddar, top tier. The final research, come by my home on the night. Bella about to eat her foot down to the bone, down to the bone, down to the bone. Bella about to eat her foot down to the bone, down to the bone, down to the bone. Like that's all I'm hearing in the corner while I'm trying to tell you what happened. Anywho, the two of them hit it off. Really, Bella, you ain't throwing stuff. Anywho, the two of them hit it off, and he is really liking Agnes. Out to police, expressing their concern about his welfare. Now, Luis goes down to the statement with him. What? Cirque du Soleil, in a performance for Cirque du Soleil. It's hard out here for a pimp. Oh, I gotta get my thumbnail, baby. When you're trying to get this thumbnail for the real. I will try to take my thumbnail with my glasses off, but girl, I ain't gonna be able to see. I ain't gonna be able to see nothing. I'm gonna be looking dumb. Can you see my eyes or no? You try to do a few without the glasses. I just imagine, like, I'll do that squint that us can't see people do when we can't see. I'm so ready to wash my face. See, I don't even know where I'm looking. Am I looking in the camera, girl? I don't know, but I think I am. Okay, let me try. I'm so childish, because why is this funny to me? Like, girl, you can't see. My eyes, I feel like I look crazy.